and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host. Well, I mentioned last week, that we may have the body language panel on, and that's a panel of four experts that actually have looked at a lot of, UFO stories and people in the UFO field, and to try to decide whether it appears that they're telling, the truth about their stories. And it's quite remarkable. And not just UFO people, but a lot of other people. And anyway, they couldn't get it, the four of them all together. They're going to be on in the second or third week in September. It's going to be real tricky for a couple of weeks because the live shows on YouTube are going to be different days. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be recording at a different time as well with Paul Dean from Australia because of the time difference and date and all that. So, but next week, don't forget, because if you watch the Unsolved Mysteries, the Berkshires UFO, next week on the 51st anniversary of the actual incident, September 1st, I will have one of the people that were in that, Tom Warner. He's the artist, great guy. I've spoken to him a number of times. That comes up just next week. But tonight, we have Geraldine Sutton Stith, and she will be speaking about her family legacy, the Kelley-Hopkinsville Encounter of 1955. Now, this particular incident has fascinated me actually since day one of looking into this topic. I heard this bizarre story. I'm going to have her, go through the story. So there are, like I mentioned a number of times on the show, there's a lot of new people that are on this show all the time. So it's possible that a lot of people have never heard of this story. So I will indeed, have her go through that, and like I said, it's really, really crazy, and I don't even need to get into it. She will. Don't forget to check out our website, podcastufo.com. And while you're there, check out, we have two blogs actually on this incident. They're revived blogs. They were written a while back, and I brought them back for this particular one. The Kelley, Kentucky UFO Goblins. That's the title of it, part 1 and part 2. And Charles will be creating audio blogs for that. And so if you're on the podcast feed, no matter where you get your podcast, you will get that. You will get that audio clip. It'll come through if you're just too darn lazy to read the blog. But I do welcome you to go over and read the blogs. There's a lot of links to these blogs that go out to, where he gets his sources. So he does a great job. That's Charles Lear, and check out those blogs. Also, while you're there, there is the Patreon link. That's under support the show. I appreciate every single person that supports the show. And if you can't do that, I do appreciate you listening anyway. And I also have a place over there for people to post anonymously. They can post their UFO sightings. So if you've had a UFO sighting and you don't want anyone to know your name or to be bothered by anyone, you can use the anonymous post that I have linked on our website, podcastufo.com. And there's also a place for you to put in pictures. I can't figure out how to put in videos yet, but if you send me a video you wanted to post, I can figure that part out easily. So you get it. Also, you can go and check the actual UFO encounters that people have posted, because there's some doozies in there. And there was one recently, a very interesting one. And you can check that out on podcastufo.com. Now, I do approve each and every one of those posts because I just want to keep out the, so to speak, scammers and spammers. And tonight we will be taking calls the last half hour. We do have a break at 55 minutes, 4-minute break. I'll play a couple of clips during then for the people listening live on YouTube, that is. And in chat, if you have a question for our guests in chat, I may very well miss them. So if you want me to ask a question, and I'm not saying I necessarily will read the question, but I will look at the question, and if I think it makes sense, I will ask the guest. But please do put that in all caps, so it actually catches my eye, and then I can also post it right up on the screen. Let me just see, just like this. I can post it right up on the screen. So anyway, we are ready to bring in our guest. And Geraldine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you are down in the South, but you're not in Kelley. I mean, you're not in Hopkinsville itself, or is it Kelley? I get them confused.
It's Kelley.
Kelley, and Kelley's outside of Hopkinsville. So
yeah.
why does it have this hyphen name of two names like that?
Because Kelley is like connected to Hopkinsville. It's in Christian County. It's part of Christian County, just like, most little places are that are in the road. It's not very big. It's just a small community.
Okay.
So it's Christian County. So it's part of Kelley-Hopkinsville.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you are the daughter of one of, actually your siblings were also involved in the time. You were born after this happened, but you heard the story so many times. But I understand it wasn't something that was easily talked about in your family. But before we go there, and I ask you those type of questions, I would like for you to, especially for the person that's never heard it, can you go right through the story and what happened that night? And that was back in 1955, August 21st, something like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was, I'll just go through it very quickly.
No need to go quickly.
No,
we have 2 hours.
Oh, we got 2. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, my goodness. Okay. Well, we'll just get into this then.
Okay.
Okay, of course, like you said, it was August the 21st, 1955. Well, that weekend, what happened was it was on my grandmother's farm. She owned a little farm. She was a widow. She had 3 small children that were 12, 10, and 7 at the time this happened. It was, Lonnie, Charlton, and Mary. Also, my Uncle JC and Aunt Eileen lived with her to help her with the small farm. That weekend that this happened, my dad and his wife at the time, Vera, were stationed in Evansville. They worked with a carnival. My dad had worked with a carnival ever since he was 14 years old. So he'd been there a while. They decided they were stationed in Evansville, so they were going to come home for the weekend, spend some time, see the family, eat some decent food, just enjoy themselves for the weekend. And when they came, they asked Billy Ray and June Taylor if they wanted to come along. They were friends that had worked with them. Sure, why not? Let's get away from this place. So they headed to Kelley, which is about 2 hours from Evansville. And so they got there like on a Friday evening and stayed the weekend. They visited everybody because my dad had older brothers that lived there in Hopkinsville. And so it was a whole weekend affair, like hunting and enjoying the time away. Well, Sunday evening rolled around. Now, you've got to realize the evening that this happened, there were 11 people in this small farmhouse. And they were all in there. And my grandmother and the kids had went to Sunday service. They had gotten home. And they had eaten. And they were, quieting down and playing cards and just enjoying the last evening they had together. And Billy Ray wanted to go out to the well to get some water. They didn't have running water in the house. They did have electricity, but not running water. So he goes out to the well. As he's out there, he hears something up in the sky, turns to look. And there it is, an oval-shaped object, silver in color. He described it as having the colors of the rainbow flowing behind it. Scared him. He didn't know what it was. We wouldn't know what it is. So he runs in the house, slams the door, and tells everybody there's something out here. I don't know what it is. It's not anything we've ever seen before. It really frightened him. Well, the first thing my grandmother thought, being my grandmother, he went out there to scare the girls. These were all young people in their 20s. Billy Ray's wife was only 18 or 19. And so that was her first thought. And so she tried to tell him, maybe it was a shooting star. And he's, no, No, that's not what it was. I know what those look like. Maybe it was a meteor shower. We've been having those all month. No, I know what those look like. Nothing they threw at him worked. And so he kept on. So my dad finally told him so he would calm him down. He told him, he said, well, let's go back out there. Let's just take another look. You show me where you saw this. So they walk out to the well. He points toward the sky. Tells him again what he saw. My dad tries to reason with him again with the same things that they were saying in the house, the shooting, star, all that stuff. No, Lucky, which my dad's nickname was Lucky. No, it was none of those things. I know what those look like. And my dad told him, said, well, listen, there's nothing out here now. Let's just go back in the house and finish enjoying the evening. We got to go back to work. So as they're walking back toward the house, lo and behold, and back where the woods are, along the wood line, comes this little 3.5 foot tall being. Huge head, big glowing eyes, huge ears, arms down by their sides, almost touching the ground. And it didn't seem to walk. It looked like it was floating over the top of the ground. They didn't know what it was. Ran in the house, slammed the door behind them. My dad said, there is something out here. Don't know what it is. We just saw it. The first thing they thought was, all right, Billy Ray done got lucky out there to join in on the fun, to try to scare the girls. And he kept telling them, no, there's something out here. My grandmother told him, said, listen, I've got to get these kids to bed and you're scaring them. You need to just stop. Well, he wouldn't. And she knew it was really serious when one grabbed the rifle, one grabbed the shotgun, one went to the front door, and one went to the back. So she's thinking, okay, something is going on here. So she goes to the back door where Billy Ray is, and she goes out there and sits down beside him. And Billy Ray, what did you see? And he looks at her and he says, Miss Glennie, I don't know what it was, but I hope it's something that you never have to see. So they sat there in silence a while longer. They can hear everybody in the house, talking and carrying on. Then, lo and behold, along the corner of the house, there it is, as big as you please, a little being. My grandmother screams. She falls to the ground. They all come running. And they, help her get up and ask her what's wrong. And she said, there is something out here. I just saw it. There is something out here. And as they're out there talking, they hear a shot ring out in the front of the house. It's my Uncle JC. He shoots one through the window. Well, Billy Ray goes running by him, runs out the front door, and there's this little stoop. And as he's standing there looking, you can see this clawed hand come down and try to grab his hair. Well, my Aunt Eileen grabs him, yanks him back in the house. My dad runs out the front door, turned towards where the hand came from. There it is sitting there. He shoots it. He hits it. It rolls and floats away. Somebody screams. There's one in the big tree because they had these huge maple trees in the front yard. And there up on the limb, there sits one. Turns, shoots it, floats to the ground, rolls, goes away. So they're coming up to the doors and windows. They're shooting at them. They shoot one off the back fence. They're shooting them from every direction. They don't seem to be killing them. They don't seem to be hurting them in any way because they're rolling and getting up again, coming back. They don't know what to do. They're scared to death. Don't know what these things are. This was happening to us. We wouldn't know either. So he tries to calm everybody down because the kids are crying. June's about to lose it. Don't know what to do. Can't kill these things. Don't know what they're there for in the first place. Where did they come from? He tries to get them settled down. So he gets them quiet. And they're sitting there in the house. And lo and behold, they hear one going across the tin roof. They can hear its nails going across the roof.
Now, can you hold just 1 second there?
Sure.
What did they hear? They thought it was like nails from the claw or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, because you mentioned that they floated or might have floated. I was thinking, how could you hear them on the roof if they were floating?
Right.
But it sounded like the claws. That's really
Right.
wow.
Apparently, I don't know if the little things knew what they were doing. You know, they were smart enough to realize if they got up there, maybe if they made a noise, it would get a reaction. I don't know.
Yeah.
None of us know why they were there or what they were trying to accomplish. You know, and we just don't know. We never will. But you know, this sends them all into hysterics. June's about to lose it. The kids are crying again. My dad's trying to get them settled back down and telling them, you know, listen, we're going to get help. We're going to get to Hopkinsville. We're going to get help. And that was in his mind. We've just got to get help and it'll be okay. So he gets everybody quiet again and it gets quiet. There's nothing coming up to the doors and windows finally. So he tells them, he says, let's go. So they hit the trucks, head to Hopkinsville. Hopkinsville's about 7 miles down the road. They get there. This is 1955. One little officer on duty. So they all run in. You've got 11 people from the age of 7 to 50 running in this little police station in the middle of the night. All of them trying to explain to this one little man what just happened to him. Of course, he's trying to listen to everybody. He's not getting it all. He's trying to understand. You're telling me you've got men attacking your house? And my dad is trying to tell him, no, you're not understanding us. So he tells him, he says, just calm down, stay here. So he gets on the phone. He calls the chief, Chief Russell Greenwell. The chief tells him, keep them there. You call Fort Campbell, because Fort Campbell Army Base was just down the road from Hopkinsville. You call Fort Campbell. You call the paper. You call the radio. You call anybody you can. We're going out to Kelley. So everybody gets there. Here you got this little caravan of vehicles going out to itsy bitsy Kelley in the middle of the night. It's pitch black dark. 1955, you don't have security lights and all that kind of stuff going on.
Right. Yeah.
And it's eerie. They pull up and the whole place just feels like something's not right. You could tell. As they were pulling up, the car that had some of the police officers in it saw a glowing substance on the back fence where they had shot one. Well, it was on the ground by the fence. And so they walked up to it first thing to see if they could tell what it was. Well, as they walked up to it, the glow went away. When they'd walk away, they could see it glow again. So they could never figure that one out. But they could tell something happened. There were shotgun and rifle shells all over the ground outside, all over the inside of the house. Woodwork and screens were shot up. So something happened to this family. But what was it? There wasn't any bodies, no blood, no appendages of any kind laying around. And the chief, knowing that these are country boys that could hit anything, knew whatever they were shooting at, they had to have been hitting. So what was it?
And did they use, was it a shotgun or these handguns? I mean, a shotgun, you have a really broad range.
This was a 12 and a 20 gauge shotgun and a 22 rifle.
Oh, 22 would be a tough one, but still, those shotguns should have hit something. That's for sure.
Like I said, you got to think these were country boys. They learned how to hunt by the time they could walk, just about. You know, they could shoot a rabbit running, a squirrel out of a tree, a bird flying.
And they were actually shooting inside the house. Outward.
Yes.
That's could lose your hearing for doing that.
Well, because they were coming up to the windows.
Yeah.
And the door. And, you know, them being country boys, their thought was, you know, shoot questions and ask questions. You know, shoot now and ask questions later, because they didn't know what these were. Why were they trying to get in the house in the first place? If they were trying to get in the house, why were they trying to get in the house? What were they wanting?
Now, do you know if there was any like aggression after that? Like, did they change the way they were acting and reacting, these beings? Or did they just continue like almost like robots, just continue trying to possibly get in the house or whatever they were trying to do?
They just continued. I mean, my grandmother thought that maybe something was wrong because when they were coming up to the windows and doors, they were coming up with their hands raised, like in a gesture of surrender, maybe. And they didn't have anything on them. They weren't trying to shoot back or trying to get back at them in any way. They were just seemed like they were curious, I guess.
Yeah.
And so
Welcome to Earth, right?
yeah. Oops,
Yeah.
landed in the wrong place, fellas.
Yeah.
But that's what she thought from the very beginning. Maybe they just needed help. Maybe something was wrong, but they didn't know that for sure. My dad wasn't going to take that chance. Here it was his mother, his younger siblings, his wife in that house. And he wasn't going to take the chance of not knowing what these things were going to do if they did come in the house. So, that was his mindset, and that's what he believed, and that's what he did. He protected what was his. And but anyway, the chief told my grandmother, she said, Miss Glennie, there's nothing here. We can't find anything.
Wow. And what about the glowing substance on the fence or wherever you said it was? Did that remain? And did anyone think to, get a sample of it or anything like that?
No. See, that was another thing too about this whole story. Nothing, the proper protocol wasn't done at all. They should have went in there and just, wrote the whole thing off, took samples. The next morning, there was people from the Army base there combing the grounds.
Really?
Yes. See, a lot of people don't realize that or know that, but yes.
And what did they do exactly? Were they there a long time?
I don't know how long they were there. I do know that they were there that morning, and you know how they do it, like so far apart, just combing the grounds.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And there was stuff flying overhead.
Wow. Huh.
So, they were there, but it just got swept under the rug. You know how that is. It just, they didn't want anything to become of this. So they just got rid of it very quickly as they could. And just let it go. They,
Yeah. In the part where you hear the ridicule, when someone says, "Oh, little green men," that's what they are. That's what they were, huh? Or something like that. Is this where that originated?
Yes, it is. Yes, when you hear the little green men on the movies and TV and all that stuff, this is where it originated from. A reporter started that little kick because Kelly, the color Kelly green. Well, it was easy. It sounded better Kelly green than Kelly gray. So they were Kelly green, little Kelly green men. And so that's where you get the little green men from. Sure is.
But they were green though, right?
They weren't green. They were a gray.
Oh, they were. See, that's the confusion because you always hear of the Kelly green men,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So the reporter, gray. It's a reporter that kind of slanted that.
Yes.
How about that? Huh.
Yeah, they were gray. They were like a gunmetal gray. So
now, what time of night did this first happen? He's out at the well and he sees the ship, but when he actually saw the being, the first one, was it dusk? Do you know, or
Yeah, it was. Well, you gotta think it's August. Back then, Central Time. Around 8:30-ish we're thinking is probably about the time he saw the first, the ship going across the sky.
Now, did the family members state that they actually got a really, really clear shot? I mean, they saw these things really clearly.
Oh yeah, they absolutely saw them. They were able to go and describe what they saw, and all the drawings. There are 3 drawings out there that were drawn, and what they did was they took each one in a room by themselves and asked about it. And they're almost all identical. I mean,
Yeah. So, they each were put in a different room. And here's the
yes.
one of the drawings of it right here. You can see people on YouTube, and it's also for those of you that are listening to the audio part of this. It's in the show, not in the show notes. It's actually in the blogs that we have up that Charles Lear wrote. So this is one of the drawings, and now I can see why they call them goblins. I mean, they get the big ears, hands hanging down. Wow. And what about those eyes? Those eyes look really like very circular, like, I don't know, not like bug eyes, but did they talk about, I mean, that's when I've talked to people that, for instance, like Travis Walton or whatever, or the Ariel School, it's the eyes. They always comment on the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Were the eyes anything in particular that they made any statement about?
Well, the eyes, I think, is actually what saved them, because they had noticed that if they turned a light on or shined a light toward them in any way, they'd back off. And that morning, after it was all over with, the sun was their saving grace, because when the sun came up, that's when they finally left.
So they may have had, vision over enlarged pupils or something that caused them to be very light sensitive. But you would think that
nocturnal, I don't know, but they did notice that, and they think the sun the next morning was their saving grace, because after everybody left that night, they were left to themselves, and they came back. So they started the gunfight again, and this lasted until daylight, and they didn't leave till the sun came up.
Amazing. So, wow. So they had one horrific night.
Yes.
But they got through it, and boy, I wouldn't stay in that house the next day. I'd be so far gone out of there.
It was long. He didn't stay there long after that happened.
Yeah. So what happened actually after that event?
Well, after it all happened, the next morning, my dad sat the family down and told them, said, listen, we need to just forget this ever happened, because I heard them last night. They were laughing at us.
Oh, wow.
And he says, no good can come of this story. So he said, just try to forget it and let's just go on with our lives. And that's what they tried to do. But of course, that wasn't going to happen, because you had the people invasion. You had people coming, setting up tents and stuff out in the yard, spending the night, thinking that they would be back, wanting to see them.
Now, that happened right away?
Oh, yeah, the next night. I mean, people were coming the next day. They had no peace.
Oh, wow. And they just blatantly set up in the yard?
Well, that's not all they did. They'd walk through the house and take souvenirs. They were picking stuff up out of the yard. It was a big thing back then. Hey, there was something that came from somewhere else. We want a piece of it. And you had reporters coming from everywhere. So
did this hit the wire?
Yes.
So it went out. It went everywhere.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, people from everywhere were coming. If you look up newspaper clips and stuff, California, I mean, everywhere, people were wanting to find out about these little beings. And my grandmother was scared to death. She didn't know what to do, because my dad, Billy Ray, and the girls had to go back to work. So she was going to be left there with just the three kids and my Uncle JC and Aunt Eileen. She didn't know what she was going to do. So she sold the farm within 2 weeks. She moved into Hopkinsville
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my God! So she it must have been a distress sale, what they call a distress sale, where you just sell it for whatever to get out of there as quick as possible.
Well, she actually sold it to some more family, and
that
moved in there with their mom and dad was scared to death. They didn't want to move into that house.
They bought it, but they didn't want to move in.
No, they didn't. And at the time, my mom and her first husband and their kids lived in Kelley, and she said it was scary. They were scared, because nobody knew what these were and why did they choose that house. It could have been any of them that they chose.
Yeah.
But they chose that one, and the fear was, would they be back?
Of course.
And because did they not get what they wanted before? Would they be back? Would they choose a different house? That fear was there, and it lingered for a long time.
I bet. And, I mean, there's, why that house or whatever, it's probably just a random thing. Again, they happen to choose one that had some weapons. But
well, any house they would have chose back then would have been the wrong house.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
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 But so I totally get that. And, it makes me want, the first thing I think of is, of course, if something like this happened to me, what would I do? As I said, I would not spend another night there. And I would just let the tourists take over the place, the people looking. But anyway, yeah, that whole thing. And to think of it, that they put up with this an entire night, and the little, whatever they were, never fought back, but they just were persistent, trying to observe or get in or whatever. And I bet the place was shot up and beat up really bad inside.
It was an old weatherboard house anyway. And the shots through the screens. Of course, the windows weren't down, they were pulled up. So they were shooting through the bottoms, because that's where they were coming up to. They were small and short, so they were coming up to the bottoms. So thankfully, they were just shooting through the screens. But I mean, they used almost all their ammo, and that was another fear too. They were almost out. What were they going to do if they had run out? Because what they'd gotten in then. But like I said, saving grace was the sun that morning.
Now, was it just pure chaos with the 11 people? I mean, were they like screaming and trying to hiding, and what went on during that whole thing? Do you know?
Well, yeah, my dad. Well, one thing my dad did is he made Vera take the kids to the back bedroom and kind of stuff them under the bed, try to hide them, because he was afraid for the kids' lives. And the women, I think all of them went back there in the bedroom, to come to think of it, and just stayed back there with the kids. But of course, it was just chaos. I mean, the men were trying to save everybody. O.P. Baker was there too. That is my Aunt Eileen's brother. He was there that night also. And so, they all had guns, and they were trying to keep these things off. And I don't know. I just don't know what would have happened if my grandmother had been there with just JC and Eileen and the kids. I just wonder what would have happened then if they would have done the same thing. Yeah. Or would she have let them in? Because she was the type of person that
should let them in the door.
I think she would have probably tried to see, maybe go out there and see, hey, what's the problem? Or can I help you in any way? Because that's the kind of person she was. But
come in for tea. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But it was scary. I mean, it would be scary to us now. Can you imagine?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you imagine sitting in your home and minding your own business, watching TV, and all of a sudden you look over in your window and there's something staring in at you that you don't know what it is?
Yeah, it sounds like a pure nightmare. Now, did anyone, I know this is probably kind of a strange question, but did anyone feel like any type of communication of any type? Did anyone ever talk about that?
As far as I know, there was no communication. Of course, there was so much shooting and stuff going on. If the portal things tried to open their mouth, they may have got it blown off. I don't know. But they never said they tried to talk to them. There was never any kind of, thing going between them. It was just, the old country boy thing. Shoot.
And here's a question someone posted. Was there a dog? There's usually dogs on a farm. Were they there, and were they barking?
They did.
Or reacting?
Dogs, but that was one of the things too. They had no hound dog, and when my dad and Billy Ray were coming back into the house from the well, the old hound dog did run by them. His tail was tucked, head down, scared to death, and ran under the house and didn't come back out.
Oh, wow.
So he just didn't come back out. And, there were neighbors that they could hear the commotion. They could hear my family hollering. And of course, there was some cussing going on, believe me. And,
Okay.
of course, they started hearing the gunfire. Even there was one neighbor that lived in the back of them on another farm back in the back. And he heard the commotion starting, and he thought maybe some of the animals had gotten out. And so he was actually putting on his boots and grabbing a flashlight, and he was going to head out there and try to help and see if there was something he could do. Then the gunshots started, and he thought, oh, whoa, here, if I go out there, I could get hit by a bullet. So
Yeah.
he turned around and went back in the house.
Now, did anyone else, you mentioned that they saw, the colors of the rainbow, or I forget who you said went out to the well, but did anyone else see that craft at any given time?
No,
or whatever it was?
Not the people in the house. Now, during the day that day, people had been seeing different kinds of lights and things in the sky. That night, people were seeing things. In fact, this came out later on after it all was over with, but I have to describe how this goes. You've got Kelley, and you've got Hopkinsville. Then you've got Fort Campbell Army Base, and above Fort Campbell going north there, you've got Clarksville, Tennessee. And there was lights being seen that nobody knew what they were from Clarksville. They started in Clarksville, went down to Fort Campbell, went through Hopkinsville, and went through Kelley. So people were seeing lights that evening, but nobody thought anything of it. And I think one reason being is you got Fort Campbell Army Base there, and it seems like if you live near an army base, the first thing you think is the army base is doing maneuvers or they're doing something. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you live around that type of environment, that's the first thing people are thinking, well, it's just Fort Campbell doing something. And they didn't think anything more of it until the word got out that there was something attacking a family. At first these were called goblins. And the reason they were called goblins is because my grandmother thought they were goblins, something the devil may have sent forth, because she was religious. And
you hear that a lot. A lot of people think, it's something evil or the devil. You hear that a lot in encounters.
Yeah,
definitely heard that many, many times. Now there's someone made a point. What about, wasn't there an area on the ground that where possibly where the craft had landed or something? It's not a burn. Was it a burn mark or something like that?
Yes, there was a place on the ground, and it stayed there for a very long time. And the reason I know this, when my parents got together, they kept this story hid from us. We didn't know anything about this. I mean, it was a hush-hush thing. Nobody ever said anything about it. We found out by chance, and that was one Sunday afternoon. It was summertime. This man and woman came to our house, knocking on the door. I answered the door, and they asked to talk to my daddy. And so I ran to the back of the house where mom and dad were and got them. And they introduced themselves, did all the pleasantries, and he told him, he says, Mr. Sutton, we want to talk about the green men. I was like 8 or 9 years old when this happened. This was like 68, 69. And so this really got me interested, because I thought, green men, what are they talking about? Because even as young as I was already into the sci-fi thing, what little sci-fi there was at the time, and horror. I love horror. So, I thought, boy, this is interesting. So they set us down, a little circle on the floor, me and my younger siblings, and they all sat down, and my dad started telling this incredible story. Scared me to death after it was done with, though. I'd run around the house, shutting all the shades and curtains and windows and everything, because I was afraid these little things were going to come back and they were going to be looking in at us. And the following weekend, my dad took us to Kelley. He wanted to show us where it all happened. I guess this was maybe a little closure for him in it all. And the house was still standing there. Of course, it was falling in.
But the family still owned it? Part of your family still owned it?
Yes. Yes.
But they didn't live there, obviously.
Well, it had a trailer sitting in front of it.
I see.
Yeah, a trailer was sitting in front of the house. And, was still there. In fact, it's still there today. We went to the back of the field. They took us all the way in the back. And I'll never forget it. Lo and behold, there was this round place on the ground where nothing was growing.
Wow.
Perfect circle on the ground, nothing there. And that just made it that much more real to me, being a kid and hearing this crazy story. Then seeing this, it just made it, oh, wow, he really, really did go through something that weekend. They all did. And
now, what about the siblings that were actually witnessed this? Did they just, I don't know if they were sisters or brothers to you, whatever they were, but did they talk about it, or did they listen to their dad that night when the next morning when he said, no one talk about this? And they
they were my dad's two brothers and little sister.
I see.
Yeah. They're all still alive today, but they don't talk about it. The oldest one used to, but he's gotten to the point where he just doesn't anymore. I think it's because he forgets some of the stuff. He's close to 80 now. And the other two, they've just simply forgotten about it. They just don't want to talk about it at all. And I don't blame them. It's scary. I don't blame him. It's just too much. It's too much for them. It was a part of their life all their lives. And I don't blame them for not wanting to talk about it.
Well, I have my good friend Lee Spiegel's listening to the show. He just sent me an image and saying this is why so many people descended on the farm, and I'm just going to pop it up on the screen there. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Yeah, you've probably seen this a million times, right?
Oh, yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great clip, and when everyone, okay, wow, that's the next day, August 22nd, the day following, and I see there was a joke in there I missed. Okay, all right, Lee, I got it. All right, but anyway, it's just really amazing how this happened, and there was so much news about it. I mean, I when I first started looking into this topic, it's one of these stories, and I kept saying that has got to be the most crazy encounter I've ever heard. I mean, I can't imagine another encounter like that. I mean, it's got to be the most bizarre one. Have you ever heard of an encounter similar to this in any type of way?
Not like this one, no. I've had people come forward and tell me that they've seen little beings of some kind that resemble, or they've heard stories of little beings resembling those, but not a story quite like this one, not involving 11 people. And, then that's another thing too. You've got 11 people that this happened to, and that even makes it more credible. They stuck with it. They stuck to their guns with this story. It never changed. Yeah.
And someone put in the chat room earlier, and I'm aware of this too, that this is like the third case, actually the first case of where people talk about beings floating, not quite touching the ground. I know of like the Ariel school incident. That is one of them. Another one was Westall, I believe. Someone posted. But there's several cases, or this is maybe is the third, including this. But of course, this 1955, this is the first time I think anyone actually talked about, something that was actually floating and not touching the ground,
Right.
which is another bizarre thing.
Yeah, well, the whole thing's bizarre. But let me tell you.
Let me just ask you this, because I don't believe you mentioned it. When they shot these poor little guys, was there any reaction at all to the getting hit or being shot?
The only thing they would do is like fall back, roll, and float away. That was the only thing they would do.
They would actually float away?
Yeah. They were hitting them. I mean, they could hear them. They were pinging when they hit them like a tin bucket. So they knew they were hitting them, and they were hitting them anyway. I don't care. You got 3.5 foot tall being there, you're going to be hitting them. A lot of the skeptics, they said it was monkeys or cats or owls and all that kind of thing. Well, you got to think these country boys would have been tearing those to pieces. There wouldn't be nothing left of them but blood and guts laying everywhere. If it had been a living being of any kind that could be killed. And that's the whole thing. These things could not be killed. They were coming back.
That is like of all the nightmares. There's a question that came in. Again, if you would like to ask our guest a question and didn't want to call in, just put it in all caps. And Stephen, thank you for doing that. So, is it true while the chief of police spoke to the grandmother over time, stated as he convinced something happened because of the grandmother's face of impression of fright?
Yes, he always believed my grandmother. Well, my grandmother was known in the community. She was a God-fearing woman. She wouldn't have lied if he'd cut her arm off. That's how she was. And of course, there was fear. There was fear in all of them. I mean, they were all showing some kind of fear because it was downright scary. And the chief believed it also because he had experienced his own thing a couple of years before that. He had seen something he couldn't explain. And so he knew there was a possibility that something was going on there. He knew something happened. It was too much.
Did he ever get into details of what he saw?
Well, he was on his way home from his sister's, and she lived on the lake. I don't know if it was Lake Barkley or somewhere down that way, Kentucky Lake. Well, I think it was Kentucky Lake. Anyway, he was on his way home from there, and traffic had stopped in the road. I mean, there was I think it was 50, 75 or more vehicles just stopped in the road. Of course, everybody was out looking at something. So, of course, he gets out too because he can't go anywhere anyway. There in the sky is this huge flying object of some sort just sitting there in the sky and not moving. Nobody can explain what it is. It's some kind of craft, and it just sits there. And I forget how long it sat there. It was several minutes that they all sat there just watching it do nothing, and it finally left. So, they didn't know what it was. Nobody could explain what it was, and I don't think anybody ever did explain what that was that night. So him seeing that made him a believer from the very get-go. That's why he told the little police officer at the station, get everybody together, we're going to Kelley, because he knew that there had to have been something happening to this family. You don't take 11 people, especially young children, in the middle of the night to the police station and telling an incredible story that something's happening to them on the farm. You just don't do that.
Yeah.
Not that day and time. Might today, we got some crazies going on right now, but back in 55, you didn't do that. My dad would not have had himself ridiculed like that and made fun of like that for no reason. Something happened. They were visited by something. And Greenwell knew that. Greenwell knew something had to be going on. He believed my grandmother wholeheartedly that they were visited by something.
Yeah. Now, what did who researched this that you know of? Do you know of any like single person that actually like interviewed and researched this after it happened?
Isabel Davis did. She went there and she did an incredible research on this whole thing, you know, talking to my grandmother and everything that happened, writing down, you know, making small maps and stuff where it all happened, even, you know, making drawings of the house inside and out, you know, all the surroundings and everything with it, and talking to all the people she needed to talk to about this. She did incredible research on it.
Wow. And a book? Was there a book written?
Isabel Davis did one, yes.
Ah.
I forget what it's called. I've got it on a DVD.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called, but I've got it on DVD.
Now, what's it like for you? We have 4 minutes. We're going to be going into the break. But what's it like for you as a family member? And I got to also say, what was it like also for other family members along the way? You know, this is many years ago, 65 years ago or whatever it is.
65.
Yeah. And so along the way, and we just passed the anniversary, didn't we? What's the date today? The 25th. Yeah. Have like different press agencies like try to revive the story and get in touch with your family over the years?
Oh, yeah. My dad would get contacted all the time about it. Of course, he would just shut them off. He didn't want anything to do about it. He didn't want to bring it back up.
Yeah.
I think it was a fear that stayed with him all the time. I don't think it ever left him.
Wow.
I know right before he passed, there was this group from Germany trying to get him to talk about it, and he just wouldn't do it. It was just too scary for him. You know, I've always said he was a little man, but he would fight a bear for what he believed in. But I tell you what, this kicked his butt.
Yeah.
I mean, it terrified him.
Yeah. How about that? By the way, did the dog ever come out from under the house?
I'm sure he did eventually. He had to eat sometime.
Yeah. I probably would have stayed under there a long time. But it's really strange because, well, one other thing, you know, you mentioned the brushing of the claw, whatever it is, on the roof. Was there any other actions like that from these little guys that, you know, hey, look at me type of thing? You know, they were obviously looking in through the windows, which is bizarre.
I think the looking in the windows and trying to seemingly get through the doors was enough, but the scraping on the tin roof was plenty for all, let me tell you.
And what about, wasn't one up in a tree or something?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they were getting up in the trees, you know. It was like, come look at me. I don't know why they were getting up in the trees. I don't know if they were trying to jump from the trees to the house. Maybe that's what they were trying to do. I don't know, but they were getting shot out of the trees. I know that.
And how many were there of these things that did they count like so many of them?
Well, my dad said that he always thought it was 3 or 4. He thought it was 3 or 4, and what they were doing was once they got shot, they were getting up and coming back. You know, I know a lot of times you'll read and it'd be like 11 or 12, but he said no, he didn't think it was that many at all. He always thought it was 3 or 4 that was doing all the chaos.
Wow, amazing. Well, it's time for us to head into the break. This is Martin Willis, and my guest tonight is Geraldine Stith, and we're going to be right back after these messages. If you're on YouTube, you're going to see a clip. I'll play that now. So hang in there, everyone. We'll be right back right after these messages.
In 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, welcome back. This is Martin Willis, and my guest is Geraldine Stith, and we were talking about her family's, wow, what can I say? What type of an encounter? Crazy encounter back in 1955. So, all right. So this happens. You're, I don't know, you said somewhere around 8 years old, and these people knock on the door. You answer the door, and then your father tells you, and then you go out to the farm. Did this, was this from that time forward? Did you talk at least to your siblings about this encounter, and was it like alive in the family, or was it hush hush around Dad?
Oh, it was hush hush. I was the oldest of the second bunch. I say the second bunch because both my parents were married before they got married. So my mom had 7 kids by her first husband. So I had 7 older half siblings. They never spoke of it. They lived in Kelley when this happened, but they did not talk of it. My dad didn't have any more kids. We were all he had. And I was the oldest. And so the younger ones, they were younger and you just didn't talk about this. And it just wasn't talked about. I mean, you brought it up. That's just like after this couple came and talked to him, there was this book written and he got a copy of it. And the story was in this book. And he hid that book away.
Wow.
He didn't like even looking at it or bringing it out. And, that's just how it was. It was just scary for him. He went through a frightening event and he just did not want to be part of it anymore.
Yeah, I can totally get that. I understand that. David wanted to know, did they have flashlights? And did the flashlights scare the beings if they had them?
Yes. Well, it seemed to get them away for a while because, like I said, if they shined it in their eyes, they'd back off. So I don't think they were really afraid of the lights or they wouldn't have kept coming back.
Yeah.
But it was enough that if they shine it in their eyes, it affected them in some way. It must have hurt, I guess.
Yeah. I can't, if you really think about this and you try to empathize with what's going on, I can't imagine anything being more scary than being in your home and having something outside you're trying to protect yourself from. I can't imagine anything more scary than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your home is your haven. It's your safe place.
Yeah.
And back then they left the windows and doors open because it was their safe place. Back then, things just didn't happen. Everybody did that. You didn't have air conditioning. And so, they didn't think about something coming up and trying to get in the house or trying to bother them or whatever they were trying to do. Scary.
Now, there's a question, but I'm pretty sure you kind of answered that. Did anyone actually have physical contact? No one did they?
No. The closest thing that happened was the hand coming down trying to grab Billy Ray's hair. That was the closest thing of contact.
Yeah. That's bizarre. It reached down to try to grab his hair. Wow. And did someone actually shoot at that time?
Yes. Yeah, my dad ran out and shot it off the roof.
Oh.
Yeah. Shot it, it rolled and floated away.
Wow. Another question that came up. Again, we're going to open the phone lines here in another half hour or so. From Andy, he usually calls in. Did anyone check the area for radiation or electromagnetic anomalies? But no one did check anything, right?
No one checked anything.
But what about the Army? You said the Army was there the next day. Did they bring any equipment with them?
I haven't heard of any equipment. The only thing I know they did was searched the area. I found out later that they found something, I guess they thought it was of interest, and covered it up real quickly and ran it to a truck, put it in the back, and the truck took off. And that's the only thing I've heard as far as that's concerned with them doing that. After the search was over that morning, that was it. They just didn't do any more. They just plopped it away, tried to get rid of the whole thing. And that's what that's what they're good at. It's just getting rid of. And it was easy to get rid of. How they did it was they chalked it up to uneducated, and I hate this, but uneducated hillbillies. And that's how we're able to put it to rest and throw it away.
Well, that's what the ridicule factor is: belittle and, attack the people, to debunk. And unfortunately, that's sad, because, everybody sees it. If you look at the range of who sees UFOs and who has, encounters, it's a range of all people. It's not just one certain type of person or the way, someone may live or whatever. And I'm sure they probably use the carnival thing as part of the ridicule too, which is another silly.
Oh, I'm sure they did. And, the sad thing is, sure, my dad may have joined a carnival at 14, but this man could do anything. He could do anything.
Yeah.
I'm serious. He was not stupid by no means.
Right.
But,
yeah.
And that was part of the hurt too. You get called stuff like that. It hurts, and
sure.
it was awful on two accounts. The whole invasion thing and the whole ridicule thing, So,
and I do want to talk about that a little bit more. There's another question. Was there any odor at all? Did anyone? I know it's one of the questions that's asked a lot when someone has an encounter, if someone's interviewing them, if there's all the senses of something. And did anyone mention any type of?
Nobody ever mentioned any kind of odor. The only thing I ever heard was that it just felt eerie. The area just felt strange. I wish to this day, see, my dad died in 95. And I wish this day, if I'd known what I know now, that I had sat down and really picked his brain about this whole thing. But at the time in 95, I was scared to death of this story. I didn't want no part of it either. And I wish I had of, because he would have been full of good information.
If you could get possibly toward the end of his life, you may have been able to get, a lot out of him. Who knows?
Exactly. And I wish I had of.
Yeah. Well, it's still a remarkable story. And now, what about? Let's go into the. I understand they said it was monkeys from a circus, or of course, monkeys don't take to getting shot too well. But what were some of the stories that you heard when people were trying to explain away this is nothing, besides, unfortunately, the hillbilly take on it?
Yeah, the whole owl thing. The owls was the top one, I guess, because there's
owls.
There's an owl that gets about 3 foot tall, but same as the monkey, it would have gotten hit and splattered everywhere. Yeah. With cats, they said that some neighbors or somebody was throwing cats at the house.
There's actually there's a connection. Some people make a connection of not just one, but Mike Clellan, I think his name is. But there are people that make a connection between this whole UFO thing and owls. Ironically,
Yeah, they do. But still, you've got a 20 and a 12 gauge shotgun and a 22 rifle that's shooting these things, and there's going to be blood somewhere.
And owls are not going to taunt anyone either. They're not going to.
Exactly.
They're not going to be three of them. They always hunt alone. That type of thing.
Of course, there's a whole thing that there was somebody that's playing a prank on them. And of course, same thing here. They were shooting everywhere. If there'd been somebody out in those woods who probably would have gotten hit. That's why the neighbor went back in the house.
I'm surprised. The one thing that surprised me, I know it's a different time, but if I heard a bunch of gunshots at a neighbor's house, I'd call the police immediately. But no one did that, obviously.
They didn't. I don't know if it's because, they may have not had a way to do it. You think about it. The only thing my family had in the house was a radio. They didn't have any kind of other communication. That was it, a radio. They didn't have a TV yet or any of that. Okay, this was a poor farming family. They didn't have none of that stuff. So, the others around them may not have had it either,
How about that? I never even crossed my mind that there was no way to call the police. How traumatized were the children after the incident? Stephen asked that question.
They were very traumatized.
Yeah,
Let me tell
I'm
you.
sure.
I'm sure they went through a lot as children. They don't talk about it today. And I'm sure part of that is because I'm sure that when they went to school, they probably got, how cruel kids can be.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
And as far as you know, was the story all around like in school?
I'm sure it was. It had to have been back then. I mean, it was the thing. I mean, that was big news. This was something that put Hopkinsville, Kelley on the map at the time.
Oh, wow. And they were going into school just a couple of days after that, probably.
Yeah. I mean, this is August, so they surely had started school already. And I'm sure that there was a lot of that. I'd hate to think what they went through, really, especially the kids.
And what, you mentioned the cat thing, the owl thing. To this day, are people still trying to debunk this? I haven't looked personally, but what do you see out there, like say on, I don't know, social media or whatever about this case?
I think people have given up. I'll be honest with you. I haven't seen anything. Of course, you got your random, well, it was an owl or it was a monkey thing, but, they can't prove it. They can't, prove it was any of those things. So I think people kind of have given up. It's taken on a life of itself, actually, and it's really getting out there now. I don't know if you know it, but we have a festival every year now because of this.
Oh, okay. Is it right on the date?
No, it can't be. It's
because it changes every.
It's
it's like a weekend thing or something.
Yeah, it's a weekend thing. It's the third weekend of August every year. Of course, we couldn't have it this year, and this would have been our 10th anniversary. We were actually planning a really big festival this year for the 10th year, but guess what?
COVID kind of changed that. Yeah. This question, we already answered this question, Stephen. There is a couple of witnesses left, but they don't want to talk about it. Is that what you said earlier?
Three, actually. Three.
Yeah.
3 youngest kids are all still alive.
Yeah. But they don't want to, this is something they're not interested in speaking about.
Now, like I said, the older one, my uncle Lonnie, he's the oldest, and he used to talk about it some. Especially when the festival first started. But now he just doesn't. He's had some physical problems. And like I said, he's getting close to 80. And I think he just doesn't feel he can do it justice probably anymore, because I think he, like all of us, as we get older, we get a little forgetful about things. And I think he's seen me take it over and do with it. So I think he's happy with that. And he's just letting it be.
Was he interviewed a lot when he was talking about it?
He was for a while there, especially around 2005 when it was the 50th anniversary of the incident. He talked a few times with different documentary people and stuff like that, did interviews, but it was back then, and now he just doesn't do much with it.
Now, getting back to where we were talking about earlier, the kind of the debunking of it. Has anyone ever tried to make a claim this never happened at all?
No.
Have you ever heard anything like that? Now, what about, this is a good point here. Was there a police report?
Yes, there is a police report. I don't know where it is. I'd love to get my hands on it. But there was a police report. Yes, definitely. I mean, they went out there that night, so surely they did make a report, but yeah.
This is interesting. And remember, in chat, please put your questions in caps so I catch them. And let's see, this one right here. Do you know if any family members regret reaching out to the beings and taking a different approach than they did?
Oh, no, they don't regret it at all. I'd be scared to death. I mean, for a while there, my grandmother, thought something was wrong. But I think after a while, she realized that, when they kept coming, especially after that second time, because when they left to go to Hopkinsville and they came back, they had a little free time in there where they didn't bother them. And my grandmother was laying there in bed with my dad beside her in a rocking chair, shotgun across his lap. And they came back that second round. And I think that second round really did her in.
Oops. Wow. Yeah. The time, yeah, the gap, and then they come back. That must have seemed like a total nightmare. And
it had because it lasted the rest of the night till the sun came up. So they had that long period of time where they were thinning them off again. And
I can't imagine going from the house to the truck. If you watch horror movies, that's when something always happens.
They were scared to death. I mean, and they watched behind them. The ones that were in the back, they watched behind them the whole way because they were afraid that they were going to come with them, I'm sure.
Yeah. And what about looking around? Did they try to look around to see if they could see anything like a craft or the beings as they were driving out of the yard?
No, they were just ready to get away from there. June didn't want to go back.
I'm surprised they did come back. I really am. I mean, I would have come back with a force of police officers or something.
Yeah.
Before I go back.
Yeah. You know, after they left them, there was nothing they could do. You know, there wasn't nothing there to prove. No bodies or anything to prove they'd shot them. So,
God, yeah. What would you do today? I mean, that's the question. I mean, how would the reaction if this happened today be? You know, first of all, we have cell phones that could take pictures. We have phones we can call the police. It would be a total different situation. Let's see. We have this question here on the drawings. Do you know? Have any? I mean, there's no way of telling because they're all, you know, different drawings, and you can't compare them to the real whatever it was that they saw. But did they agree among themselves which drawing was closest to the real?
I don't know that. I never even thought about that. They're all so similar, you know.
Yeah, they are.
Thing they said was Billy Ray's was the one with the abs. If you notice one of the drawings, one of them has abs.
Oh yeah.
So they said, you know, Billy Ray kind of they think he kind of threw that in on them, but
yeah, I'll try to pull up some of those other ones. Richard has this question: Has family members experienced any other sightings or strange experiences that you know about?
Not that I know of, but even if they did, they probably wouldn't talk about it. I'll be honest with you. They'd probably be afraid to. Yeah.
Now, what about you mentioned? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It'd be a nightmare again for them. So I don't think if they had, they would speak a word.
What about? So you wouldn't even know, like the new family members that bought the farm. If anything ever happened again there, you know, was that?
Now they never have came forward with anything going on there. Now the farm is chopped up. You know, it was close to 30 acres, and it's like 5 different people own it now. You know, it's chopped up into different acreage. In fact, my sister and her husband just bought 5 acres of it. So 5 acres of it's back in the family for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, different people live on splotches of it now.
Now, I don't know. We talked about this earlier. Esoteric Gold is asking some questions that we've already discussed, I do believe. But were there, I don't know if this one in particular, were there any other animals on the farm besides the dogs?
Cats and a few farm animals.
Yeah. Did the farm animals make noises that you're aware of or react?
That I know of. I don't think they would have noticed it. They were so afraid of these things trying to get into the house. I don't think they would have noticed anything going on with any of the animals, to be honest with you.
A lot of it starts, a lot of encounters, they hear the animals first, and then, you know, the encounter
Nobody
happens.
ever said anything. The only thing that was ever spoke of was that hound dog running by him with his tail tucked and ears down, running like he was scared under the house and never coming back out.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing that was ever said about any of the animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This is exciting. I think I'm going to open up the line since we're getting a lot of questions. I think, let me just find out if Bill is ready for that. But as you go through life now, are people contacting you? I know you're kind of a central figure in the festival, and because of that, are people reaching out to you? I mean, I think I may have reached out to you because of finding you that way.
Yes.
Or actually, no, you were on another podcast. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. People, like all day today, I've been talking to different people. I mean, there's somebody
Today. How about that?
Yeah. There's somebody wanting to do a documentary. Another podcast is in the air. I'm scheduled out with podcasts for months ahead.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm honored that you were able to do tonight.
Yeah, I think that part of it is because, that's what people are doing now. I mean, this has become a great thing for you guys because people are sitting home and listening to podcasts and watching stuff like this.
Yes, I have requests all the time. People asking me to do more than one podcast a week.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a captured audience. And that's why I've been pushing a friend of mine that has a really good film that a lot of people in this field are waiting to watch. And I keep egging them on. This is a time, get it out.
Yeah.
And
getting a hold of me today wanting to do another documentary. It's been years since a good documentary has been done on this. So, if anybody that could do a really good documentary on the story would be a great thing right now.
Sure. Yeah.
We need one. I mean, like I said, it's been years.
Wow. 15 years. Now, did like Unsolved Mysteries or anything like that ever do something on this?
Yeah, I've done several TV shows actually, and there's another one coming out here soon in the fall I'm not supposed to talk about it, but the Travel Channel's got a new one coming out. Travel Channel's always got something coming out. So, I can't tell you the name or anything, but you'll find out here soon. We did one for them here back a few months ago. We got it filmed, and so it's getting ready. And I've done Mysteries at the Museum and Monsters and Mysteries. And of course, they pop up on other stuff too. They trade them around. And, people love the story. They love hearing about it. It's fascinating, think about it.
Yeah, like I said, there's none other that I know of. We have a caller. We have Joe. He is calling from Michigan. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, Martin, how you doing? I wanted to mention that Geraldine first had spoke that when they first saw the craft, they had mentioned the like sparklers coming out of the back of it.
Or rainbow.
That was something in the 2013 Southern Ontario close encounter, the very close encounter in Southern Ontario that was heavily researched by MUFON and was their 2016 incident of the year, even though it happened in 2013. And when she said that, I'd just like to tell her it's those little things like that are very important, because the minute she said that and mentioned about the sparklers coming out of the back of the craft, it's really part of the propulsion system, I believe, a plasma type of thing. And it was heavily talked about by MUFON and researched. And when she mentioned that one little thing that she mentioned told me that in all probability, as far as I'm concerned, this was a real event. That one point of it told me that it was most likely a real event.
Yeah, it seems like there's
mentioning that
another piece to the puzzle, obviously. Any question, Joe, or you just want to make that statement?
No, I just wanted to tell her that it's surprising that one thing she mentioned that she might have thought was maybe inconsequential to me, and from my research told me that, wow, that to me tells me it was real. Yeah. It was a real event.
All right. Hey, Joe, thank you.
Of the being. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, appreciate it. And next we have a caller, Michael, calling from Cincinnati. Welcome to the show.
Hi there.
Hi. How are you?
A little to the show, but I apologize. I she may have already answered this. Hello, Geraldine and Martin.
Hi, Michael.
Hi there.
My question is, well, you mentioned there was another woman about 20 years old and maybe a 15-year-old lady too present.
Well, actually, June Taylor is only like 18 or 19.
Are
Everybody,
they still alive, and will they talk about it?
we cannot find June Taylor or Billy Ray Taylor. We don't know what happened. I know June made the statement that she would never come back to Kentucky. That scared her so bad that she said she would never come back to Kentucky. So we don't know where they're at, if they're still alive even.
And you say there were 3 children hiding under the bed.
Yes.
Did any of those children see the beings?
Well, Lonnie, my oldest uncle, he said that he actually got out from under the bed and went to the window and looked out the window and peeked and saw.
I would have to do that too.
Yeah, he said he did. And he was 12. So he said he did, and he did see one of them. He has told me
from him, and anybody else that's still alive for this documentary would be great. I mean, besides the original 3.
Right. There are
one from the children.
There are a few people, like there is this one man, Billy Thomas. He was a neighbor at the time. He was only 14 when this happened. He's still alive, and he can talk about it. And he has actually been in some stuff that we've done here recently. He's a really good, because he was friends with my dad. My dad actually taught him how to shoot and how to hunt. And but there are a few that were young back then that are still alive that do remember it happening. Billy Thomas was actually, like I said, a neighbor, and he actually saw, him and a friend of his saw the lights in the sky that night and was hearing the commotion at the house. And talked to my dad about it. And he's really good.
All right. Hey, Michael, thanks for the call. We have a lot of calls lining right after the other.
I can also tell you that.
Great show.
Thank you.
I can also tell you that the day after or the next day, something like that, because after this event happened, my dad and them didn't leave right away to go back to work. They stayed a little bit longer. And Billy went down to the house, and my dad got a ladder, went up on the roof, and showed him where the little being up there had made scratches across the tin. So he actually seen that himself.
Yeah. How about that? Did anyone ever say to your father, you can't hit the broadside of an alien?
I think they'd be afraid to say that to him, actually.
All right. We have Sarah from Washington State. Welcome to the show, Sarah. Hello, Sarah. There you are.
Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
So I also came in a little late, so I apologize if this was answered just like the previous guy, but I was wondering a little bit more about the creatures. How were you able to tell that they were green? Was it like when light shone on them? And also, was there some kind of animal that we know of that you can compare to it, like reptile, snake or whatever? Also, I wanted to know, looking back in hindsight, what do you think they wanted from you? My impression is that they were kind of little tricksters, but and I can hear your answers off air.
All right, Sarah, thanks for the call.
They were shining flashlights, so they could see them. Of course, the porch light was shining too in the front of the house, so they were able to see these little things. And they weren't green; they were a gray. They always said a gunmetal gray, whatever you want to call it, gunmetal gray, but they were gray. Little green men came in from a reporter, and it just kind of took hold and just went wild because you have the color Kelly green. So it was easier to say Kelly green man than Kelly gray man. It just rolls off the tongue better. And that's where that came from. But they were gray. Now, as far as a reptilian, I just can't think of anything that would look like as far as a reptilian, because reptilians usually crawl on 4 legs on the ground, and these were, on 2 legs standing. So I don't know about that. And
I forgot her third question.
I forgot the third question.
Let me see if she's in. Sarah, if you happen to be in chat, please put your third question in. I should have written them down. But anyway, sorry about that. And we have Andy calling from Connecticut. Andy, welcome to the show. Andy, you there?
Hi, Martin.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah. You have a question for our guest, Andy?
Hi, folks. Yes, my question for Geraldine is two quick things. Is did the ship that they arrived on, the craft, did it hover nearby? Did it hover in the air? Did it land? And then the other question was, do any of her relatives remember any telepathic messages of any kind? Because that's often associated with, the overwhelming majority of alien contact events are telepathic. And good show, as always. And I'll take the answer off the air, guys.
All right, Andy, thank you.
As far as I know, it didn't hover. It went across the sky when Billy Ray seen it. Now, he did not stay out there long enough to see where it went. That was the thing. That's why they didn't know it had landed in the back. And I forgot what the other question was already. My brain's dying on me tonight.
Oh, my God. I just started reading something in the chat, and I totally blew the last part of the question. Also, I got to write these down because I was keeping track of it and started reading. My mistake. I guess I only have the capability to take one. Oh, yes. Thank you. Telepathy. You already mentioned that. There was no telepathy.
Yes, no telepathy. If there was, they were ignoring it, let me tell you, because they were not sitting still long enough to pay attention to see if there was anything going on in the mind. And they didn't even think about things like that. I mean,
yeah,
they had the only communication this family had was a radio and the neighbors and what was between them. And they didn't know anything about this. They didn't have the money to go to the movies. And at the time, you got to think 55, the UFO stuff, extraterrestrial stuff was just now coming out. And they didn't know anything about that. So they wouldn't have known what telepathy was. I really don't think, to be honest with you.
I mean, it would either happen or not, basically.
Right.
And yeah. And
if it hadn't happened, they wouldn't have known that it was happening to them, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. We have Stephen in California. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Hi, Martin. Hi, Geraldine.
Hi.
Hi, I'm curious. Having family have such a close encounter, did this direct you to interested in UFOs and maybe a search for answers? And what's your thoughts on what's going on currently with the UFO on the news and what's going on and everything?
Now, before this incident happened, I was a sci-fi girl. I love sci-fi and horror. So when this story come up and started and I heard about it and this happened to my family, it scared me to death. So guess what? Alien movies, alien shows and stuff scare me. Even to this day, if it's a certain kind, like an abduction movie or something like that, it really, really bothers me. I don't like watching them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, and as far as what's going on today in the news in the world, it's about time they start talking about this stuff because it's out there. A lot of people don't want to believe it. I mean, believe me, I get it when I do festivals and stuff because I have people come up to me, and this is so crazy. I have people come to me and tell me that I don't believe in God because I believe in aliens and stuff like that. And it's just outlandish because you've got these people that believe we're it and there's nothing else. You know, you got this vast universe out there with billions of planets and stars, but yet we're it. Come on, get real.
Yeah.
You know there's got to be more stuff out there. So I'm glad they're starting to bring this stuff out, and maybe people will take it seriously now and realize that we are not it.
I think we're heading that way. Anything else, Stephen?
Oh, no, just thank you for your courage to speak out and keep the story. It's a very important incident that should be kept going and told, and God bless you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We have Sarah who called in earlier. She was kind enough to put her last question in there. And looking back, hindsight, what do you think they wanted from you? Did they seem like tricksters?
Okay. Yeah, now I remember that one. We don't know. Maybe that's what they were. Maybe that's. I went to a UFO convention and I had somebody tell me that they think that it was the kids they were attached to because they were small. The kids were small. My Aunt Mary was little bitty tiny thing. So was my Uncle Charlton. And that could have been. Maybe they just wanted to play. Maybe they just wanted to come out and play. But if that was the case, you had my poor mama who was married to her first husband. She said lived over in the valley, and she had 7 kids. So, why did they go after this one house? So we just don't know why they were there. And, you think about it, and it looks like they were just wanting to play, or they were just, like you say, tricksters. But we'll never, ever know. They didn't get a chance to tell us what they wanted, poor little things. But,
yeah. Interesting. Well, we have another call waiting, and I will tell you the lines are open. If someone wants to call in, that number is 855-472-5483. That's a show call. I'm almost scared to answer this one because it's Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones from Canada. I hope you're nice. Hi there.
Hey, hello, Mark. Hello there.
Hello there.
Well, hello, Geraldine.
Hello.
Hello there. This whole story is so great for me for a long time because it reached all this mood and this family. Sorry for the English, by the way. And my question is, what happened between all this, the whole people there, the whole family, the young, the old, and what happened like before that happened, those days before? Did something happen? Like those people were missing sleep, they saw something, they went fishing and something happened? Because that night is like the crisis. But this family, it's like the whole mood of the family is great. And there's like this dynamic there, and nothing come for nothing. It's cause to effect. So I was wondering if you would like be aware. I know it's a long time ago, but if they ever told you like before that day, if anything happened. So yeah, that's my question.
I had a similar question I was going to ask her next. That's so yeah. What do you say to that, Geraldine?
As far as I know, they were just, like I said, my dad and Vera and Billy Ray and June were there to enjoy a weekend away from the carnival.
Yeah.
They were there to visit his brothers who lived in Hopkinsville, which they did. They hunted, they went out and had a good time. They had some decent food. As far as I know, nothing crazy happened. I mean, you got to think 55 Kelley, it was laid back. These were country.
No nightmare, no dream, no nothing.
Not that I know of.
Yeah. Good question.
Oh, right.
And if they had have had something like that happen, they probably wouldn't have talked about it because they probably wouldn't have connected it. Because, like I said, it was a different time period. You've got farming families out here, and they connected with each other through their church, their families, that's how they lived back then. It was simple times. And I just don't think they would have connected anything if they had a dream. They wouldn't have connected it to something like that. I really don't think so.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
All right. Hey, thank you for the call. Yeah. So back then, you're talking back then, and you kind of bring that up a lot, and it was definitely a different time. Again, the lines are open, 855-472-5483. If you don't want to call and you want to put a question out there in the chat, just make sure you put it in all caps so I see it. And as far as what he just mentioned, I was wondering too if there was anything ahead of time that anyone ever talked about, but obviously not that you're aware of.
Mm-hmm. No,
and
pretty sure there wasn't.
Yeah. And what about the area? You mentioned that night that they saw lights, but as far as was there any other, types of UFO sightings in the area? Is this like an area where they often see UFOs?
It's a pretty strange, I'll be honest with you, it's a pretty strange area. I've heard people, down through the years recently talk about seeing different lights and stuff on 91, which is a road that goes down through there, and it's a long, tiring, boring road. And I've heard people talk about coming home from school or work or something and seeing lights in the road, or lights follow them that they don't know what they are. They're not car lights, they're not truck lights, anything like that. What are they? Kinds of things like that people have told me about. But I think a lot of people just put it off to Fort Campbell now because they think there's maneuvers going on and they see something strange. Oh, it's just Fort Campbell.
Yeah.
And they don't think about it anymore. And
some of that very well could be. We have Mike calling from Cincinnati. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, Martin. I called before, but I meant to ask a question about the ring that the object left in wherever it was, and if she could still find that today, or someone could find that area today, 65 years later, and how long it took before things grew back. I wonder when the last time she was there. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Well, let me tell you, as I mentioned earlier, the Travel Channel is doing a show. The host that is doing it came down and we recorded for it. We actually had the little map that Isabel Davis had drawn out that showed where everything was and where the craft had landed. So we went and took this little map, and he was really good. I can't tell you who it is, but he was really good. He was able to go in there into these woods. Now, you got to realize the people that own this land don't want you on their land. And the part where the craft landed is their land. So, it was like, well, what are we going to do? We risked it and went back in there into these woods. And the woods were thick. You could hardly get through there, but he was able.
So it grew in quite a bit in the area?
It's grown now.
Mm-hmm.
It's grown now. Now, where he found this area, of course, it's not as thick as some other parts of the woods. These woods hadn't been cut in years. They just let it grow. Mm-hmm. And he's pretty sure he found the area where it landed. Now, my sister and I were there, and we stopped going so far because it was just going down, down, down into the gully where this landed at. And so we stopped, but he went on down in there. And so I don't know if that's going to be, I would think he would put that in the show, or they would put that in the show. We'll see when it airs. But yeah, just here recently, I was pretty close to it right there.
But that many years ago, there's no way there's going to be any trace. I wouldn't think any traces of anything would be there. I mean, it's possible, but
No.
a lot of rainstorms and winters and seasons later, everything gets kind of, covered over and washed away. If there's anything there at all.
65 years of that and growth. So, yeah.
You mentioned the house is kind of like, I don't know, did you say boarded up or something there?
No, it's not there anymore. It's
not there. It's taken down.
Tore down in the 80s, and they've built a new house there. The people that own the land now.
I see. And someone's asking, you can't answer this question, can you? Who's the host for the Travel Channel? You probably have a non-disclosure agreement, so you can't even talk about it. Yeah.
I'm not supposed to even talk about this right now.
Yeah. So just be patient. Can you actually talk about when we may expect to see it?
It's going to be September, October, I think.
Of this year?
Of this year, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
They're working on it right now. I mean, they've been getting a hold of me, getting more pictures and stuff, and they're hoping either September or October. So just keep an eye on the Travel Channel. It's a coming.
I would bet $50 I know who it is.
You probably do.
And he's got a terrific background if it's who I'm thinking.
Yes.
How about that? I'm going to send him an email after the show tonight.
Get me in trouble.
I'll just tell him I guessed. No, I won't say anything. Okay. So how did the press learn about this is Richard in the chat. How did the press learn about the event, and how did the story become national news?
It just went. I mean, but
the initial press, was it police radio, or
they called the local paper.
Okay.
The radio. It was on the local radio station. I've actually got the little DVD with the aired thing from the radio when they first announced it. And so when it hit that, I guess it just took off running.
Wow. Yeah. Something like that happens, even a lot of people think, well, it's back then, they didn't have the internet or anything like that. But let me tell you something. Stuff traveled fast and far and wide on anything like this that happened. And who was it that called? Do you know? Who called? Yeah. Oh, a family member called the press.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, it was that night when they ran into the police station. Chief Greenwell told the officer on duty to call the local paper.
I got it.
So the local paper was there to take pictures.
Yeah.
And they were part of them that were making fun of the situation. They were actually, it was a man and a woman, and they were wanting doggone pictures. They wanted pictures of the beings or whatever they were. They wanted pictures because they were going to make it big time if they got pictures. And that's what they were saying. And they were making fun of the situation and stuff. And that's what my dad heard them talking. But that's where it started. And, of course, it went in the paper the next day. Then the Kentucky New Era there in Hopkinsville got it and took off. And then the radio station announced it because, of course, papers got it. The radio's going to have it, the local radio. And so they got it. So it got out on that. So when it hit the radio, I think when it hit the radio, that's probably when it went.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take long. I was looking to see if I could find any other. All I see is the drawings. Now, can you go one more time? I know you kind of talked about it a little bit at the very beginning of the show, but how did the drawings come about? Whose idea was that to have them draw what they saw?
Oh gosh, what was the guy's name? You put me on the spot. It's in my book.
Okay, that's no problem. But how was it approached for them to draw?
A local, what was he? Gosh, I can't think. My brain's dead. A local guy, a local reporter. I think he was a reporter at the time. Wanted to find out more, so he did it. He went to the family and asked them if they could tell him what they looked like. And so they said, yeah, we'll tell you. So he took them each off in a room to themselves, just him and whoever it was, and had them tell them what it looked like. And he drew it out. And those are his actual drawings.
I see. So it was like an artist, like a character artist or like a police witness artist.
No. It was just a local.
Oh, just a local person.
Local guy. Let me see.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to get some pictures up here of that. I think I got a new one right here coming through.
And Bud Ledwith is the one that did it.
I see. Okay. We are going to, if anyone wants to call in, you have just a couple of minutes to call in. Otherwise, that's going to be it for calls this evening, because we have to end the show just a little bit early. And I did want to, I'll just, hang on just a second. So anyway, this is the drawings, and it shows a comparative. Now, on this, if you look at the screen, Geraldine, you'll see a picture of, there's one of them has like clothes on. Did someone think they saw clothes on one of them?
No, I don't know where that came from. I mean,
oh, that might be just a bogus thing. Okay, I'll take that down.
Because,
yeah,
of course, people were, I'm sure, drawing different things. Now, the actual real drawings from Bud are like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
that's the one that's got the abs, that Billy Ray.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You wonder where he works out.
And then you got the other
Planet Fitness. No, sorry. That's a bad joke.
There you go. Then you got the others. Yeah.
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 Well, interesting. So, yeah. Well, it's like you said, it's been 15 years since there's been a documentary done on this thing. And, maybe you are doing your best to keep the story alive. And, do you have someone that will follow in your footsteps if you decide not to do that anymore?
Well, I've told my son he's going to have to.
Ah, yeah.
If he will or not.
Does he have an interest in it, in the whole thing?
Yeah. He actually, his senior year in high school, he did a paper on it, his senior paper on it. So,
wow.
I think he can do it. He'll just have to learn. But maybe I'll be around. He told me I couldn't die, so I got to be around a while to do this. Yeah. But I've actually got a kid's book I'm working on. Illustrator is working on it right now, so hopefully I'll have it out soon. It's going to be cute.
A kid's book about the encounter?
Yes.
Sleep well, kids.
Yeah. It's not scary. It's going to be really cute.
Oh, I bet. Well, we are toward the end of the show here. And so now, if someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that? If you want to give your information out there, you're welcome to.
I do have a website. It's alienlegacy1955.com, and it's got my email on there and everything. But Facebook, just type in my name.
That's how we connected. Yeah.
You know, that's probably the best thing if you really want to talk to me about anything. I'll try to answer any questions I can if you've got any. I don't mind talking about it. It's like I tell people, any day you can talk about the green men is a good day. So
yeah, that's right. Well, it's great. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. It's been fun.
It's been a lot of fun. All right. You take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Good night. Whoops, I cut her off. I hate when I do that. Next, we have the show's called, if you're on KGRA radio and you're listening, the show coming up next is called Universal Secrets. The hosts are Tiffany Mack and Kevin Hale, and their guest tonight is Ken Gerard. He's a cryptozoologist. It's always a hard word to say. Next week, don't forget, everyone, we have Tom Warner. If you haven't seen the, I know some people just can't get there, but if you haven't seen the Netflix if you don't have Netflix, I don't know what to tell you to do, but the Berkshire's UFOs, I believe it's episode 5. Check that out if you can do that in between time. It is really, really amazing. And so that is it for us tonight. Thank you so much. And again, we'll be back next week. Thanks for all those who help out. And Bill, thanks for your extra help tonight in the call center over there. Take care, everyone. And remember to keep your eyes to the sky.